Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. We're ready to proceed.
Thank you.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
Veronica, are you able to proceed with your testimony?
Yes, I am.
Thank you very much. And before we took our morning break, you are talking about being detained at the NIA premises. And you appeared before the investigators on the first day, rather on your second day at the NIA, and they were recording a witness statement, and you believe also that your words were being recorded through an audio recorder, correct?
Exactly.
Okay. So could you take your testimony from there onwards? What happened after you gave that statement?
After I gave that statement, they asked Keba Seka to escort me back to, I've forgotten the name they called that room. I went back there, sat at the hall, then they told me, Barnard, if we need you, we'll come back for you.
Did you face the investigators again?
Oh, I faced them how many times? Even while sleeping, they'll wake you and say, invest. There was no time for them to come for me. I faced them many times, I cannot remember.
And who are the investigators you would face during that period?
One of them I know was Keba Seka, Gora Njai. The other two, I can identify them because we had worked at the ports. One we had worked together at the port, then the other seaport, then the other one we once worked together at the airport. I can identify them physically, but their names I'll miss.
Okay. The investigations, did you have to face a panel or it was just these few people?
There was a panel, but I cannot recall who or what they were comprised of, apart from Keba Seka and Gura. They are the ones I can identify.
Did they tell you what you were being investigated for?
They told me, we have something that we downloaded on the internet, and we want you to shed light on it. So I told them, don't waste my time. Go bring the one that wrote on the internet, then you will know why he wrote on Kibaro newspaper.
That's right. Were you subsequently charged with an offense?
I was charged with 4 or 5 counts.
Do you recall what those counts were?
1, abuse of office. 2, giving false information to, was it a civil servant or to somebody? I cannot recall. 3, was it about the vehicle?
Let me read out. You recall that there was an opinion written by a staff of the Ministry of Justice regarding the case against you. Do you recall that?
Yes, I do.
All right. And take a look at this document. It's dated 14 October. And it's written by a Mr. M. Job from the Attorney General's chambers.
That's the very one.
Thank you very much. And if you go through the document, you would see the charges that have been leveled against you. An example is abuse of office. They are in headings, providing false information. Could you take a look at that and tell us the charges that were made against you, just by looking at the headings?
The 1 is abuse of office, as you stated. 2, giving false information to a public servant. 3, unlawful publication. 4, corrupt practices. 5, no, it's 4. It's 4.
Good. So, did you appear before a magistrate's court?
Yes, I appeared before Fatu Dabo of the Banjul Magistrates Court.
At what stage in your detention did you appear before this court?
The 28th or 29th day after my detention.
Let's clear the issue of the charges first before we go back to the detention. You mentioned 4 charges: abuse of office, giving false information to a public servant, unlawful publication, and corrupt practices. These were the 4 charges that were leveled against you, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Could you send back the document to me, please? Madam, would you agree with me that none of these charges have anything to do with the article that was published against you?
None whatsoever.
And the facts are so completely different?
Totally
correct?
Different.
It means, therefore, that what you were being investigated for is completely different from what is contained in the article.
Exactly, totally different.
That takes us back to your earlier statement, that the statement that Mr. Dabo gave is identical with the article. So, therefore, the statement by Mr. Dabo could not have been the basis of the charges against you?
Well, in a way, yes.
Thank you very much. But in any case, the prosecution, what happened in the end?
The prosecution, when they took me to court, I think after 9 months or so, during the trial, when they were about to give judgment, Kebaseka appeared in the scene again, and they had to step down the judgment for, I think, 2 weeks.
What do you mean by they have to step down the judgment for 2 weeks?
Because the magistrate, Fatu, said case is adjourned till 2 weeks. So we had to go back home and came back on the date that was prescribed.
Was judgment handed down?
It was handed down.
And what was the verdict?
They found me guilty on all 4.
They found you guilty on all 4 counts?
Yes, sir.
And, but what you have here, this document that you gave me, was that the Ministry of Justice, there was an opinion to the Minister of Justice suggesting that there should be some form of disciplinary action against you, but not prosecution, because the charges are not necessarily directly supported by the evidence.
Exactly.
But would you agree with me that this is just the opinion of a lawyer in the Ministry of Justice, correct?
It is.
And that opinion was directed to the Director of Public Prosecutions with recommendations, correct?
It is.
And you would also agree with me, regardless of the merits of the opinion, some other lawyer could arrive at a different opinion, correct?
It might be, yes.
And therefore, the opinion that is sent to the DPP was not necessarily the correct statement of law, correct?
Exactly, sir, correct.
And it was up to the Director of Public Prosecution to accept that recommendation or to reject it.
Legally.
And if the recommendation was accepted, perhaps the Attorney General should have entered a nolle prosequi, which is an application to stop proceedings against you.
Exactly.
And that was not done.
It was not done.
So when you were found guilty of all the charges, what disposition was made?
I was found guilty on all the 4 charges, different amounts, which came up to 90,000 in default, 3 years or 1 year or so in prison. I paid the 90,000, then went home.
So essentially, you are convicted.
Exactly.
You are fined, and in lieu of which to serve a term of imprisonment.
Either or.
Yes, you paid the fine.
Exactly.
And you went home. Okay. Now, did you appeal the decision?
I did. at the Supreme Court, and they acquitted and discharged me. Then I also applied for my 90,000 that I paid, and it was reimbursed.
Okay, good. So no qualms about that?
No whatsoever.
You were vindicated by the justice system?
Exactly.
That convicted you?
Yes.
That's right. So in a sense, the initial opinion by the Learned Council at the Ministry of Justice
Stands.
Stood at the end of the day.
Exactly.
Good. Wonderful. So now let's take a step backwards. No, maybe I should end with that. In the meantime, what happened to your job? This case was in 2014. When were you convicted?
2014.
2014. Okay. Naturally, with a conviction, you should lose your job. Wasn't that the case?
I lost it before going to court.
But how? Tell us that.
Because like when the NIA released me 28 or 29 days, I went to court. I was bailed, but I was neither told not to go back to the office nor to stay home. So the following day I said, wow, since I'm a civil servant, there's no correspondence that I have in hand, let me go back to the office. So I went, I signed the register, then went to stand outside because I was afraid if I go inside the office, they might think I came to take something away or whatnot. So I stood outside the gate to wait for authorities. When they come, let me tell them I've come to report to work.
And what happened?
Then the NIA came back for me. They arrested me again. Then I told them, let's go. I went with them again. They locked me back in the same room.
For how long?
For 3 or 4 days? Extra 3 or 4 days. Then they brought my dismissal letter, which was dated, was it 31st September or so?
Okay. So you were subsequently dismissed. You went through the legal battle. You were initially convicted, and you were later acquitted and discharged by the appeal court.
Exactly.
Good. And your fine, the fine you paid was reimbursed. When was this?
When the coalition won the election, was it January
2017?
2017, January 2017. When there was public announcement that anybody that feels that you were illegally terminated, dismissed, or whatnot, write to PMO. So I wrote to them, PMO. I attached the legal document plus a photocopy of the check that I was paid with my lawyer's letterhead. And there were 4 items that I accompanied with it. I can't recall the 4th one.
But after, the point I want to make is the date in which the court finally disposed of your case. Was it during the Jammeh era or the new government?
No, not during the Jammeh era. That's why I said when the coalition came into power, that's when I appealed at the Supreme Court, and I was exonerated, acquitted, and discharged.
Yes. I have not seen that document in your stack of documents. Perhaps that is a document that we would need to see. Okay. But following that, did you ask to go back to the service?
I did, As I told you earlier, when there was that public announcement, I wrote to PMO. There was a panel set up, and that panel included PMO, IGP, was it?
Yes, proceed.
No, I'm trying to recall those who were part of the panel.
Okay.
And they concurred that I should be reinstated. I was given a reinstatement letter. I went back to GRA. I told my boss, morning, sir, I have my letter. He looked at the letter and told me, go back, I'll get back to you. So I went back home. I wrote to PMO, the originator of the reinstatement letter, together with the then Minister of Finance, that's our line ministry, the board chairman, GRA, who that time was Mahmoud Jain, and the PSA. And I think I copied it also to PSA.
Good. So in a sense, there was a letter recommending your reinstatement.
Exactly.
To the position you were. All right? That's the case, isn't it?
It was.
But you could not be taken back to that same position because there was no vacancy at that level, correct?
Yes, correct.
And what happened after that?
After, I think, 1 month, is it 1 month? After I think 1 month, I got another letter which read appointment, Deputy Director, Internal Audit. So when I read that letter, I said, well, this one reads reinstatement with all my dues and salary, this amount, appointment, 6,000, with nothing being said about my services from 1984 till today. So I wrote back to PSC, copied it to the same individuals that I wrote the earlier letter. Up till today, I haven't heard from none of them.
But isn't it also the case that you were given 14 days within which to accept the new offer you were given?
And I wrote before the 14 days. I replied before the 14 days.
I mean, that is an issue of employment, and it is outside the mandate of this commission, outside our temporal jurisdiction. It is also out of our subject matter jurisdiction. Because it's got to do with employment. But that is a matter that you should pursue with the civil service, or the public service rather, and try to seek redress on that.
Okay.
So it means to say, as it is, you are not employed.
No, I am not.
Good. So you would pursue that angle, that issue from the relevant governmental authorities.
Okay.
So now let's go back to your detention at the NIA for the 28 to 20, was it 28 to 29 days, you said.
Exactly.
Tell us about that detention. What are the things that happened in that detention, during that detention?
It wasn't pleasant. Like, when they came for me, I was lying on the floor the whole 28 days. My family did not know where I was. They would not bring food for me. I was just given $25 a day for my feeding. And the ladies I found there were hostile to me. As a lady, I knew I was going to have my periods. I packed my bag to go with it, but they denied me my bag. When I felt like I was having my period, I told the lady, Anyilau, that is Janghabi in Jola, them na kasamas, meaning like there was blood. But they wouldn't listen to me. I stayed like that. And what did I do? I was wearing a gown with lapa. I had to tear it. To ease myself. I stayed like that. I told their boss I knew I was going to have a tough time here, but my basic necessities, you should have allowed me to come with it. Then after about 3 or 4 days, I said to myself, let me find a way of going to my home. So I told Keba, you've parked the office vehicle here. And now, let me go get the duplicate at home. There was no duplicate at home. It was just a ploy to get home. So they escorted me to my home in Kotu. I immediately went to my bathroom. I was able to snatch my bag that I had prepared earlier to go with them. And then when we went, I told him, Keba Seka, they've told me, yo, ya rebelila. That's why they held you in detention too. You are doing the same to me. But let me tell you, there's a living God. We serve a living God. There will come a day when you will pay for this. Then after about 1 week or so, those nights, you nearly sleep well.
This time around, did you allow you to go with your bag inside the room where you were detained?
No, the bag I left it at home. But as a lady, if you can kumbe kayo, as we say in Wolof something, you can do it. So I packed some things to help me ease my comfort. Then those days, every day, they might come for something.
Are you suggesting to us that you smuggled the things that you need into the detention room?
Yeah, that's what I mean by kumbe kayo in Wolof.
Okay, good. All right.
Because ordinarily, I will doubt if they will allow me to take it, and it was a basic necessity that I needed. And there was a time when I needed medicine. They brought their medic. I think he's Sanyang. I told him, is it safe for me if I tell my auntie at MRC I want medicine because I have issues with my left breast, left kidney, and left ovaries? You people, I doubt whether you'll have medicine for me. So he told me, I am a medic. So I told him, no, suma case suit na la. Like telling him my condition or whatnot, it's above them. So he told me, let me look at your feet. He checked, it was swollen. Then he told me, let me prescribe not penicillin, I've forgotten the name of the tablet. He brought it. Then when I checked him, I told him, this is coated. It should be coated one that I should take, not this one. It's okay. Just try and tell me. Let me get in touch with my auntie at MRC, Eileen. Luckily for me, Auntie Eileen came there. But I wasn't confident to tell her this is what I want because, okay, she'll give it to me, but through how many hands would it pass before I get it? I wasn't confident. So I just said, let me try and see what next. I told Cisse, that time he was in charge of the front desk. I told Cisse, your authorities, when do you think they can release me? Because I didn't do anything wrong. And I mean, my condition is not for here. At least let them bail me, as Aegis Chambers have said. So what else? He said, your like your case is not within us. I told him where? He said, no, I wouldn't say anything. We stayed like that.
Did you have any suspicions as to who was responsible for your detention?
Like what Liz told me, Liz, as I said, the one that died, he was the deputy director, NIA. Because when I learned he was in mile 2, I took my ID card and told them I want to see Liz. I went, I visited him. I told him, Liz, you've been nice to me when I was at NIA. As a Christian, you are a Christian, I'm a Christian. This should not have happened to you. I told you, in Wolof, I told him, this compound is not for you. Us Christians, you should not work here. That was when they first arrested me. So when I went there, I told him, look at it. I told him, your feet are all swollen, what has happened? But what I came for is my detention. You were the deputy director, so I want to know, because Momo was Mabaken, you're with Momo Losabaken. Let me know. So he told me, check your papers or your file or whatnot. They took it out from me when they knew that you did not do anything. We didn't have anything to hold you there or whatnot. So your case was above me. I don't know. I don't want to say anything or whatnot, but this is it. So I told him, anyway, I pray God for you, and that's it.
So in essence, you do not know who was responsible for your detention?
I do not know.
And Louis, what
Liz.
happened, Liz Gomez or Louis, what happened to him?
I think 3 or 4 days after I went there, he died.
He died in custody?
Yes,
Where?
at Mile 2 Central Prison.
Why did you have to tell him that Kirgi Dusakir fi warulo fe ligay?
Because he's a Christian, I'm a Christian. What they tell us in church and at catechism or whatnot is against what they were doing at the NIA.
What were they doing at the NIA that was against the Christian faith or Christian values?
The church, it teaches us to love your neighbor as yourself. We have 10 commandments. And one, if you love somebody, you don't maltreat him or her.
Are they maltreating people at the NIA?
At the time of my detention, when they come at night, they put out all the light and they'll take somebody.
Who is they?
They the NIAs, because the window, the room I was in, I was able to peep one night. I saw one with a black, is it VW Polo, or it's a Volkswagen though, coming there with black hoodies. Then
I don't understand. The VW vehicle came there with black and hoodies. Could you explain yourself?
yes, with the occupant of that vehicle came with a hoodie. You would not be able to identify who it was.
And wearing black.
Black, exactly. And they used to allow me to sit just by. They built a new office there. They used to allow me to sit there. So that individual came and said, "Yow luñ ma wax, xawma luñ wax ci yow man duma la ko def. Sa maam daf ñu bëggoon." Meaning my grandfather. So one of those ones at the next told me, "Come and go inside," meaning to lock me up. So I went and locked the door from in so that like somebody outside would not be able to come in unless I open for you. So the following morning, we came back to settle in the hall. They told me who they picked that night, and what they did to him. That continued up to 1 week.
And what was it
that continued up to 1 week.
What was it you understood was done to that person?
The other detainees, they said, "Hey, Yirim Nako, I feel sorry for him. He cannot lie down. There was pain. He was in pain."
Arising out of what, as far as you know?
I think beating. So I told Sabali, "Anna, you can take like sand and press it in a cloth also and try to massage him or whatnot." So it continued till about 1 week. One night,
was that person the only person who was beaten?
Some of them, I don't know them, but this particular person, I know him because of his son's popularity, together with some other prison wardens. I don't know their names, but they know my grandfather because my grandfather was the commissioner of prison that time. So when I gave them my grandfather's younger brother's name, they said, "Hi, suñ boss la won." That's how I knew them.
So it was not only that person who was taken out and beaten?
No.
You said that continued for 1 week.
1 week.
Would you say that was routine?
Yeah, I would say so.
But you were not beaten?
I wasn't beaten physically. So one night when I was about to go and sleep, I found them in the room, in that small room that was purposely for me, lying down. I told them, "This room is meant for you or for me. Get out." So I drew them out of the room. I told them, "Fee, you will not rape anybody here. You will not torture anybody here. Ñu reyante rek ñu ni neen." I drew them one by one. There were 3 of them out. Then I told their boss, "You are their supervisor. I am talking with this embassy. Anything that happens to me, it's you together with them. But none of them will sleep here. They are to guide me. But not come and sleep here with me. Look at all my body. You see pain, fleas, whatnot, cockroaches, you name it. They all bite my body. I couldn't even know what was happening to me." So he told me, "Ya baaxa ñoom ñii ñun dañ leen ragal. You are good for them. We are even afraid of them." Good.
Who are those three people?
I can recall Adama, and they were twins. Adama and our Fati, together with Aja. Aja was named after the former president's mom. You know, we are neighbors, 2 streets from me here in Kotu, together with Cisse. Then the other gentleman, I can identify him, but I don't know him.
What were they doing there?
They said they were staff or whatnot, because if somebody comes, they were the ones that attend to the register. Instead of sitting on the desk, leaving me to stay in the room, they wanted to come in the room with me. I told them, hell no.
Do you know whether those people were also detainees?
They were not detainees. As I said, they were the ones who were attending to the register.
And how did you know their names?
During conversation, they'll call each other, Adama, Awa, Aja. Then I said, Aja, yo, danga dem Maka. One of them told me they did, Mayor Bilenko today. So I said, okay.
Mayor be meaning who?
Aja Asombi Bojang, the former president's mother. As I told you, they are my neighbors, so I can recognize them. So I told them, fi fanan.
Apart from that, did anybody do anything to you while you were in detention?
No.
Okay, so your complaint, therefore, for your victimization is you've been detained at the NIA for 28 to 29 days without being taken before a judge or a magistrate, correct? Were you allowed to speak to a lawyer during that period?
They did not, because before going to Kanilai, I told my friend, if I am not produced before a court, after the 72 hours, talk to a lawyer to come bail me. Nobody has challenged Yaya, but I will. So our sister Sabali tried, but she was not allowed to see me. She came twice, but they did not allow her until I was produced in court.
Okay.
That's when I was able to have contact with her.
How about contact with your family members? Were you permitted to have contact with them?
I wasn't until 2 weeks that Liz gave me my phone and said, call as a family. They bring food for you. I told him, Liz, no, let me use your landline to call. Before I use my line, they say I'm trying to call somebody. They brought food once, but I couldn't eat it. I told them, stop, it's of no use.
You were not provided with any sanitary facilities when you needed it as a woman?
No, they did not.
Did you ask to see a doctor during that period?
I told them I want to go to MRC because I was comfortable going to MRC, not to the hospital. But they said Sanyang was their medic. So when Sanyang came, I wasn't comfortable with him. I said, whatever medicine, if even giving a medicine, I wouldn't take it.
So, in a sense, you had no needed treatment during that period?
I did not have any.
So, it was subsequently you were produced in court and prosecuted?
Exactly.
How do you feel about being detained during that period under those conditions, almost incommunicado for 2 weeks, unlawfully detained for 28 to 29 days, being deprived of the facilities that you needed as a woman? How did it feel at the time?
We were very uncomfortable because, I mean, your basic necessities, you should be given your basic necessities. And, I mean, what else would I say? everybody is entitled to what you deserve. I asked for it. I was not using their money. I was using my own just to have access to it, but they wouldn't. I mean, it was just demoralizing.
Thank you very much. But subsequently, you are prosecuted, convicted, exonerated, reinstated, but you do not have a job at the moment because of challenges within the department. Mr. Chair, I have no further questions for the witness, but before I leave, I would want to put the documents in evidence. And the first I would want to put in is the Kibaro article, Kibaro News article, dated September 1, 2014. And that should be Exhibit 129A if accepted. And then the opinion on the case of IGP versus Veronique Carayol, that should be Exhibit 129B. The witness also talked about the letters, the correspondence between herself and the Personnel Management Office and government institutions regarding her reinstatement. I would ask her to take a look at the letters and confirm that these are the letters that she talked about, and then I would ask to put them in evidence. These are three sets of letters, and kindly show the witness. I have arranged them in chronological order. Take a look at those documents and let us know what they are. They are in chronological order.
Yeah, correct.
Yes. So could you tell us what the first document is about?
This is a letter from me directed to the Permanent Secretary, Personnel Management Office, and the subject is reinstatement, copied to the Secretary General, Office of the President, the Commissioner General, Gambia Revenue Authority, the Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Finance.
Okay. These three letters all get to do with your reinstatement in 2018, correct?
Exactly.
Okay. And Mr. Chair, interesting as this subject may be, 2018 is outside our temporal jurisdiction, and it concerns her own employment, and which is also outside our subject matter areas of consideration. So I will not exhibit these letters. I would leave them with her. And I would be contented if the chair accepts the three documents I have just listed, exhibits, to be Exhibit 129A to C. A would be the Kibaro News article. B would be the opinion from the Ministry of Justice. In fact, that's it. Just those two documents, Mr. Chair. And
thank you, Council. Your request then concerning those three documents,
two documents
is granted.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Yes, that would be it, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Council. And thank you, Ms. Carayol, for your testimony and coming to appear before the Commission. Before I give the floor to the Commissioners, I have a simple clarification I want to seek from you. When the staff members of the Customs and Excise Department went to Kanilai to work on the former president's farm, were they given DSAs, per diem for the days that they were going to be there? You had mentioned something about vote in your budget for that. Was the government paying employees, DSA, per diem, to go work on the president's farm? Can you clarify that point, please?
No, we were not paid per diem. Just that, like, they buy our basic needs, food, drinks, whatnot, for us as a group.
And accommodation in the hotel, you paid from your own pocket?
Yes, from my own pocket, because I wasn't comfortable in living in their accommodation for the general public.
And you did know that the hotel belonged to Jammeh?
Yes.
Did you know that?
Yes.
And you were paying from your own pocket money that would go into his bank account?
Because that was the safest place to live.
Oh, you mean the hotel?
Exactly.
Okay, fine. Thank you very much. Commissioners, if you have any questions, yeah, please go ahead, Imam Jala. Commissioner.
Madam Witness, you mentioned unpaid monies that you are supposed to list out. Could you clarify the situation for me? What were these monies for, and why were they not collected? Thank you.
These were monies that were supposed to be collected as customs duties, that were goods or services that were rendered to, like, importers or whatever, and they had documents that showed you owe $1, $2.10, but they didn't have somebody else at the institution that would get to them to tell them, this is what you have paid, this is what you should pay. It was lying there for how many years? A businessman, you have your goods, you the customs, you give them the goods. Won't you have a guarantee? Give them a time limit, 1 month, 2 months, 3 months. If they don't come to pay, you have a check, cross-check or whatnot, pay it. But if you get your goods, customs don't come for you, would you not sell your goods, go import again, come? If you don't have somebody getting the whip after you, what would you do? That was my bone of contention with them. I said, this is long overdue. You are going to put me in a mess, because if I want to continue and tell them, this is what you should pay, you have forgotten about it, or whatnot. Some people don't like taking out money, but they should take out money, because they should. When the person who is supposed to collect it would not come and tell you, what would you do? It was difficult for me, but I tried. At least I collected about 6 million out of it. I would not be in their good books. I know that. I know it would be difficult to do it, but what else? Somebody must have to do it. And I did it. I have no regret for doing it. And I will do it again if they tell me.
Thank you very much. Your earlier warning about the house going on fire, did that eventually happen? I missed them at some point there. Or was it just individuals? This is about the memo. You said the memo, the house, Nalaka. And then did that happen? I didn't quite get them. Yes.
Sir, I learned you once work with UNCTAD. You know they provided that server for us. They burnt it.
Thank you.
How can somebody run a system, you are not controlling it? And that person, they allowed him to work up to retirement age. They did not ever query him, because it's kabudu. With me, they maltreated me at the NIA. Just for me to keep quiet, I told them I will not keep quiet, because Jammeh's time, if I did not do something good, I did bad, I know they would have slaughtered me. That's why I was trying to check myself during Yahya Jammeh's era. It's as if I was like standing on a sand mine. Any day it will explode. So I was checking myself. Yankuba messed me up by asking me to write this memo. What I told him was, sir, let's tell the authorities we are under siege. I told him that, let's tell Yaya Jammeh we are in a mess. Because how can small boys, illiterates or whatnot, come and penetrate us, take out containers from the port? And you want to tell us nobody knows? Yaya Jammeh was on TV saying that container till they sacked how many customs, police, immigration, and I think NIA, and that was true. Why are we hiding? Let's tell the truth. From there we will have help from people or institutions or whatnot. We are on a siege.
Perhaps, Mr. Chair, one issue arising from the question you asked is the basis for the arrest, according to the witness, is the article that was written. And the charges that were subsequently proffered are completely different.
Totally different.
Okay. And you were initially convicted of those charges, but subsequently acquitted and discharged.
Exactly.
What is not clear is what was the basis of the charges that were proffered. Perhaps that is for some other day, at some other place, at some other institution. But what remains clear, at least for the purposes of this commission, is that she was detained for 28 to 29 days under horrible conditions for a woman and without regard or respect for the provisions of the law. The period for investigative detention was 72 hours, within which the person is to be brought before a judge. That was not done. She was not afforded a lawyer. She was not given the opportunity to communicate with her family, and her sanitary needs were not provided. That is the victimization that we are focusing on. At the beginning, you did state that you were going to sue whosoever was responsible. I just flagged that point and leave it at that.
The other point that's involved in her own case concerns some massive abuse of civil servants going to work on Jammeh's farm.
Mr. Chair, you want to open up forced labor as an issue?
Not at all, but it did constitute a gross abuse of the rights of these individuals.
I can't
even
agree
where
more.
they did it out of fear, as the witness seemed to have implied. I've got to go there, otherwise I would suffer for it.
Very important one, Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
Thank you.
If you have, witness, if you have any concluding remarks to make, please proceed to this. Oh, my apologies. Bishop, you have the floor, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Madam Veronique Carriel, you did mention that the memo that was written to you for you to collect those outstanding debts, these were things that were long overdue. Did you mean to say that they were to be collected before you getting into that office? Can you kindly throw light on that?
Exactly, Bishop. They were to be collected before I got into that office. That was why when Yankuba wrote the memo to me, I told him no, it was Abdul MC Jallo, who was sitting on that chair before me. Let me give him also the memo so that he will sign. And he signed.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Carr, did you ask for the floor? Oh, I thought I saw your hand. Okay, fine, thank you very much. You may proceed now to make any concluding remarks that you have.
I don't.
You don't have any conclusion? But thank you again very much, Emma, for coming to testify before the commission. We really appreciate your presence here. And sorry you had to endure so much. Yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you. We will come back from lunch break at 2:30. Meeting is adjourned.
2:30, Mr. Chair, you said?
Yes, 2:30.
Okay.
For those who
All right, yes, 2:30.
you know
yes.
the,
Yes,
the
that's
prayer.
right. I know the
Yeah.
drill, Mr.
Thank
Chair,
you.
yes.
Meeting is adjourned.